In Washington, the cameras rolled as President Donald Trump spoke inside the Oval Office, but what followed shocked reporters worldwide. A single comment about free speech quickly turned into a heated debate about power, media, and control. Across social feeds, headlines hinted at hidden motives behind ABC's decision to suspend Jimmy Kimmel, and viewers wanted answers. Could late-night comedy, immigration reform, and questions about government pressure all collide in one story? The past 24 hours have raised eyebrows inside newsrooms and living rooms alike, making this more than a simple headline. What we uncovered shows how politics, entertainment, and law can intersect in ways that reshape public trust. Stay with us as we break down every detail, one surprising turn at a time. Before we dive deeper, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss stories that connect politics and culture. Tap the bell icon to get alerts the moment a new episode drops. If you enjoy content that explains the headlines without sensationalism, this is the place for you. Our journey begins with President Trump seated behind the Resolute desk, answering a question on free speech. He described how, during his campaign, he felt most television reports portrayed him unfairly, citing figures as high as 97% negative coverage. Trump suggested broadcasters using public airwaves should remain neutral, sparking debate about what government can or cannot demand from the press. This moment set off discussions about whether the line between criticism and regulation was being blurred. Critics warned that questioning licenses could chill open debate, while allies argued networks twist stories against elected leaders. The exchange offered an unfiltered look at how Trump views media accountability versus constitutional rights. Let's watch the remarks that became the starting point of this fast-moving controversy.
Free speech this week. Do you see a difference between cancel culture and consequence culture?
I mean, your question's a little trick question. I'm a very strong person for free speech. At the same time, when you have networks where I won an election, like in counties, I guess it's 2,600 to 525. That's called landslide. A landslide times two. When you have that level of popularity or voter support, as I did in the last election, and yet 97 and 94%, different numbers. You see different numbers with different stats, but 97, 94, 95, 96% of the people are against me in the sense of the newscasts are against me. The stories are they said 97% bad. So they gave me 97. They'll take a great story and they'll make it bad. See, I think that's really illegal, personally. You can't have a free airwaves. You're getting free airwaves from the United States government, and you can't have that and say, and somebody that just won an election. And I had to go through this during the...
Hearing those words, analysts pointed out the fine line between expressing frustration and hinting at penalties. They noted that U.S. broadcasters operate independently and government pressure could raise First Amendment concerns. At the same time, the president's defenders said he was simply challenging coverage he believed was unfair. This first clip highlights why free speech remains a lightning rod inside political and legal circles. It also explains why subsequent actions by agencies or even by private companies drew so much attention. From here, the story expands beyond a single press moment to policy moves shaping immigration and entertainment. That brings us to a major announcement made in the very same room. Moments later, Trump shifted topics, unveiling an executive order nicknamed the Gold Card. The proposal offered a fast-track visa for highly skilled people willing to invest significant funds in the U.S. economy. Officials described it as a way to keep top graduates and innovators from leaving after their studies. Unlike border crossings without authorization, this pathway targeted entrepreneurs ready to contribute jobs and taxes. Supporters framed it as common-sense reform, while critics warned it might favor the wealthy over average applicants. By tying immigration to talent and investment, the administration sought to reshape how opportunity is granted. Here's the announcement that drew immediate headlines around the world.
Yes, sir. And yes, sir, I will do that. So we have two items for your attention today, sir. A major focus of your administration has been shifting the conversation and shifting the policy dynamics around the issue of immigration. closing the border, preventing illegal immigration, but also, as is the case with the executive order in front of you, opening new pathways for truly extraordinary people to come contribute to America instead of taking away from it. So this executive order is entitled the Gold Card. It will set up a new pathway, a new visa pathway for foreigners of extraordinary ability who are committed to supporting the United States for a payment of $1 million to the U.S. Treasury, or if a corporation is sponsoring them, $2 million by that corporation, and that will give them access to expedited visa treatment as part of this new Gold Card program.
And one of the biggest problems we have is that people, they go to the best schools and they do great and they get great marks, and then they're thrown out of the country. You're not allowed to stay. This way, a corporation will be able, sort of like a signing bonus in baseball or football, a corporation will be able to get them to stay in the country, and I think it's going to be tremendously successful.
The Gold Card remarks added a fresh layer to the conversation about fairness and national priorities. Commentators weighed whether linking entry to a $1 million payment balanced opportunity with revenue. Some praised it as a boost for American competitiveness, while others questioned the ethics of a pay-to-stay system. What stood out was how quickly this policy story merged with debates about free speech and broadcasting. By speaking on both issues in one sitting, Trump blurred the lines between cultural and legislative agendas. This connection would resurface once other voices, from business leaders to TV hosts, joined the discussion. That leads us to Howard Lutnick's analysis and more comments from the president. Howard Lutnick, a respected financial executive, stepped in to explain the economic reasoning behind the Gold Card. He compared old visa programs with the new focus on high earners who could start companies and employ Americans. Lutnick argued that prioritizing proven talent could reduce public assistance costs and raise billions for the Treasury. He described the plan as a shift from accepting any applicant to welcoming innovators at the top of their fields. Trump followed by emphasizing that this wasn't about shutting doors, but about selecting contributors carefully. Together, their statements portrayed immigration less as a burden and more as an investment in national growth. Let's take a look at how they framed the stakes.
So historically, the employment-based green card program let in 281,000 people a year. And those people, on average, earned $66,000 a year on average, and they were 5 times more likely to go on assistance programs with the government. So we were taking in the bottom quartile, below the average American. It was illogical. The only country in the world that was taking in the bottom quartile. So what we are doing now is we are going to stop doing that. We're going to only take extraordinary people at the very top. Instead of people trying to take the jobs from Americans, they're going to create businesses and create jobs for Americans. And this program will raise more than $100 billion for the Treasury of the United States of America.
Which we'll use for cutting taxes and paying down debt. We think it's going to be very successful. Essentially, we're having people come in, people that, in many cases, I guess, are very successful or whatever, and they're coming in. They're going to spend a lot of money to come in. They're going to pay, as opposed to walking over the borders, and they may come from jail.
The comments underscored how economic framing can change public reactions to immigration. By focusing on productivity and funding, the administration aimed to sell the policy as fiscally responsible. Still, questions lingered about access, equity, and whether wealth should influence residency rights. Observers also noted how this calmer discussion contrasted with the storm building over late-night television. Soon, talk of visas and taxes would be eclipsed by an argument about satire, ratings, and regulatory threats. This is where another part of the narrative, involving Jimmy Kimmel, entered the spotlight. To understand that pivot, we turn to analysis from MSNBC. On MSNBC, anchors traced a possible link between Trump's remarks and ABC's sudden suspension of Jimmy Kimmel. They explored whether concern about federal retaliation or plain audience metrics led to the network's choice. Rolling Stone reported that insiders believed Kimmel hadn't crossed editorial lines, but executives feared political fallout. Commentators suggested the bigger story wasn't just a comedian's joke, but how leaders respond to satire. They raised questions about whether regulatory hints could chill free expression across news and entertainment. Trump, speaking later, again criticized negative coverage and hinted at license reviews for broadcasters. Let's hear how analysts connected these pieces into one complicated puzzle.
Look, Trump did a lot of stuff you could mock him for just today, just in the last less than 24 hours. And that is a huge part of what Jimmy Kimmel did on his show, and a huge part of why Trump went after him. And when the story broke yesterday, the assumption was that ABC suspended Kimmel because of his comments about MAGA's reaction to Charlie Kirk's killer. But it sure seems like it might be just a bit more complicated than that. I mean, yesterday, Rolling Stone reported that according to two sources familiar with the matter, multiple executives within ABC felt that Kimmel had not actually said anything over the line, but that the threat of Trump administration retaliation loomed. Well, there you have it. So maybe this one wasn't entirely about, or really about, one Kimmel monologue. Maybe this was about Trump not liking being made fun of, Trump not being able to stand being criticized, and him using the power of the presidency and his handpicked FCC chairman, by the way, following his lead and cracking down on shows he doesn't like. It's not even just me saying that. That is not just my interpretation of the news of the past 24 hours. I mean, today on Air Force One, Trump basically said the quiet part out loud.
My host is on network television. There is a licensing. I'll give you an example. I read someplace that the networks were 97% against me. I get 97% negative, and yet I won it easily. I won all 7 swing states, popular, I won everything. And if they're 97% against, they give me only bad publicity or press. I mean, they're getting a license. I would think maybe their license should be taken away.
I mean, Trump is basically saying there, sure is a nice network TV station you have there. Would be a shame if something bad were to happen to it. Would be a shame if that guy over at the FCC had to take your license away because you said negative things about me. That would be a shame. And that wasn't just Trump misspeaking. I mean, minutes later, he said basically the same thing again, but almost clearer.
This segment captures why the debate over Kimmel's show resonated far beyond Hollywood. It combined themes of accountability, humor, and the limits of executive influence on private companies. Legal scholars stressed that private networks set their own standards, even as public comments create pressure. Meanwhile, audiences questioned whether satire had become risky when aimed at powerful figures. By outlining potential motives, MSNBC illustrated the stakes for both performers and policymakers. The conversation reminded viewers that a vibrant democracy depends on independent voices and respectful critique. All that remained was to bring these threads together and close with what it means for free speech today. From the Oval Office to late-night stages, today's clips revealed how words can shape law, business, and art. Trump's mix of policy talk and media criticism highlights how quickly political stories can overlap. Whether discussing immigration pathways or comedy monologues, the balance between authority and openness stays crucial. For citizens, understanding these dynamics helps separate clear reporting from speculation or hype. If you found this breakdown insightful, please like the video and share it with friends who value context. Join the conversation in the comments. We read every thoughtful insight you send our way. And don't forget to subscribe so you're first to see future investigations into stories shaping public debate.